Welcome, one and all, to the Tuesday afternoon Saltcast IRL. I am, of course, your host, the Salty Nerd, Alex, and I am joined by only one of my co-hosts today. It's just me and Kadish in a room by ourselves.
We didn't want to get anyone bloodied by the battle we're about to have.
Yeah, the fight. We're going to fight about Extraction 2?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to fight about that. All right. I haven't seen Flash. You saw Flash. You liked it. So we're going to talk about Flash. We're talking about Extraction 2, and we're probably going to talk about that sub thing that happened that everybody seems to be obsessed about, our take on what's going on with the Titan Submersible. It's going to be a quick and easy live stream today. We're going to go for about an hour, just hanging out with you guys and seeing how everybody's doing today. We've got Nadia in the chat. We've got Penny, of course, Nerd Issues, Anthony Mark, big supporter, No Money G, what's going on, everybody? And Real Old Movies. I hope that's everybody so far in the chat. Thank you guys for being here so early. I saw you chatting it up before we even started the show. So thank you, as always. Welcome to Tuesday's live stream. And without further ado, we're going to get into it. So I'm fascinated by this because I haven't seen The Flash. I'm probably not going to go see it just because I have weird things about Ezra Miller, and I'm not super interested in seeing a 1989 Batman movie with a Flash as a side character. There's just a lot of reasons why I don't really care about that movie, but Kadish went and saw it, and you actually really liked it.
I loved it.
That's crazy.
I had such a good... It was funny because I went into the theater expecting to not like it, right? Like I had my fingers on my gun holsters. I was prepared to shoot this thing full of holes.
Yeah.
And about halfway through the movie, like I finally just had to admit, I was like, God damn, I'm really enjoying this movie.
That's good.
And by the time like the movie ended, I walked out of there. I was like, I had a great time. I thought that the movie it wasn't perfect. It wasn't the greatest superhero movie ever made, but it was a lot of fun and it was not boring. And I loved it. I had a great time. I do think Ezra Miller is a garbage human being. I agree with you on that front. And I walked in expecting not to like the movie, but I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. It's kind of funny because I went and saw it with Nadia and Chris from the At Home All Day podcast. And Chris absolutely loathed it. Like he hated it with 7 passions. And then Nadia was kind of more in my camp where she kind of enjoyed it. But I felt like it was a well-written movie. It was very well paced. The multiverse stuff made sense. It had probably the best breakdown of time travel in a movie that I'd seen in a long time.
That's a lot coming from you because you usually are very critical of time travel movies.
Well, if you compare it to how they explain time travel in Endgame, it was like night and day. Like the Endgame time travel explanation was so fucking stupid. It took me out of the movie like immediately. But this one was actually like kind of interesting because what they said is that when you go back in time, you've probably come to expect that it's a branching timeline, kind of like the Back to the Future method, where if you change one thing, like a branch to the timeline happens. And so like you have these 2 parallel timelines out there. But what they basically said is that instead of a branching timeline, what happens is when you change one thing, it creates a fulcrum, where like basically the future doesn't branch off. It's the future and the past goes on in a completely different direction. And they use spaghetti as like a way to explain it. So like they put like spaghettis in the shape of a cross, where it's like if you change one thing in the middle of spaghetti, all of a sudden there's like a different timeline completely on top of that has a different past and future. And then like he's like, if enough of these intersections happen, he like dumps a whole plate of spaghetti on top of each other. It's like you got tons of spaghetti touching each other. You have multiverse.
Okay.
And the way they explained it in the movie made actually a lot of sense. Like I was very impressed. Like when they did it, I was like, oh, okay, so these are the rules. Therefore, everything makes sense now.
Okay.
Didn't take me out of the movie at all. That alone wanted a bunch of brownie points in my
because
book.
they went through the actual process of explaining their rules.
Well, they just had a time travel theory that made sense. Like they basically said like, okay, here's what you're expecting, but here's what we're actually doing, and it made perfect sense the way they explained it.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, this explains why Batman's different. This explains why, history is not the same in this timeline as it used to be. Like it basically just solved all the timey-wimey problems that most time travel stories have. And then at the end, there was like this big multiverse kind of like thing where they show like different versions of DC superheroes where, you know, like Adam West's Batman makes an appearance.
Really?
Yeah.
So like CGI, they deep faked him back in there?
Yeah, I mean, it was very brief. The one that they deep faked really hardcore was Christopher Reeve's Superman. Like he shows up along with like the 1984 like Supergirl type thing. So like you have like all these different like DC characters coming in at the end of the movie.
Did Nick Cage make an appearance?
He did.
He
finally got to play Superman.
Oh man.
Yeah, so like it was funny because he came in with like the long hair from like his Superman Lives casting thing. Wearing the same thing, and he's fighting a giant spider.
Of course he is.
Yes.
Of course he is.
So like that was pretty cool. Like when I saw that, I was like, are they going to show us? Is this going to be Nick Cage? And it sure as hell was.
Wow.
Yeah. So like that was a good little Easter egg. And then there are more at the end that I don't really want to spoil because I don't really think that it was a spoiler to reveal like they're showing different versions of like the characters.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen it yet, and I kind of knew that they were going to do cameos of a bunch of different DC properties. But that was my next question is like, so in my opinion, James Gunn kind of put the kibosh on most of the DC, especially anything that was tied to Snyder's stuff. But then he came out saying that this movie was basically paving the way for his DC universe. Do you feel like it did that at all?
No. So it's my understanding that they shot like 3 different endings for The Flash. And 2 of them had to do with kind of like, so like one of them was wrapping up the Snyderverse. One of them was continuing the Snyderverse. And then one of them was just like kind of like a weird, like self-contained ending, which is the one that they ended up going for with this movie. And the reveal at the end, I thought it was like, okay, it was fun, like whatever. The after credit scene, though, that everyone's been kind of ragging on, it's basically like Jason Momoa shows up and he gets drunk with Barry. And Barry says like, you know, like out of, you know, all the versions of you, like there's only you, right? And it's kind of a meta joke in the sense that you have lots of different actors who have played Batman and Superman.
Yeah, but only one to play Aquaman.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Right.
So like, I think it's kind of like a lead into like Aquaman, which is coming out in December. But this movie, like, I don't understand a lot of the hate. It's like, okay, I do understand some of the hate that it's getting, but I don't feel like it was a bad movie. Like this is a movie, if I had watched it on streaming, I'd have been perfectly happy with having spent 2 hours or whatever watching this movie. And even Ezra Miller, like as much as I don't like him as a person, I enjoyed the character of Barry in this movie.
Huh.
Yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of his version of Barry Allen. He was okay in the Snyder movies, but he was never like, oh, I can't wait to see Ezra Miller as the Flash.
So what's interesting is that there are 2 Barrys in this movie, obviously. So like he goes back and he meets like a younger version of himself that he kind of mentors into like being like the Flash. And as the movie goes on, he realizes how annoying he is. And so like they kind of like address his portrayal in previous versions of the Snyderverse in this movie where he realizes like, oh wow, no wonder people hate me, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like Andy Muschietti, who wrote and directed this movie, he was well aware of all the criticisms going into this, and he kind of subtly addressed it throughout the film. And at the end of the day, like I feel like Ezra Miller delivered like a very heartfelt performance. Like there's a moment at the end of the movie where like, you know, he's saying goodbye to his mother, and it kind of got to me, you know?
Really?
Yeah. It was one of those moments where it's like you could imagine talking to your own mom, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And I felt like it was a very emotionally resonant kind of like climax to the movie. And I also loved Michael Keaton's Batman, seeing him in this movie. Like it was not a Batman movie.
It wasn't?
No. Like I know that the joke
kind of wish it was.
Yeah, me too. But like I know that the joke is like, oh, like this is another Batman movie. And there are segments of the movie where like Batman plays a prominent role, like the whole kind of first 10-minute opening of this movie, like what's his name? Ben Affleck's Batman has a big role in the opening of this movie. And then Michael Keaton's Batman from like the midpoint onward has like a very big role. But it was really cool to see like Tim Burton's Batman come back, even like as an older version, because they recreated like the sets from like the original like 1989 Batman for Wayne Manor.
We got a $10 super chat calling you out from No Money G. $10. Thank you, sir. It says, what the actual F? Kadish loved the Flash and got mad when they killed off Captain Shaw. This really is the upside down. Yeah, I was shocked. You were very contrarian this week when you texted me. You're like, I like the Flash and Extraction 2 was shit. I'm like, what?
Well,
what just happened?
I'm right on both counts. So.
No, I don't think you are.
And I was upset when Captain Shaw got killed. So
I don't think you are right on both counts. I think you're going to get some arguments, especially from the chat. The chat's already going after you, but even Vader's going after you. Look, he said,
well, I of course, expected Vader to go after me.
Did the Flash 11367 start a cult of groomers? Oh man,
well, it was kind of cool because they showed like the original Flash in this movie, not like the actor who played him, but like the original comic book version of the Flash with like the metal helmet and stuff.
Yep.
So there are versions of different versions of the Flash out there. I kind of wish Grant Gustin had gotten some type of cameo or some type of shout out.
Is that the guy from the CW show?
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
And maybe like the 1990s like TV Flash would have been nice to have gotten a shout out for, but they really focus more on like kind of like Superman and Batman and stuff like that in this the show. And I know that a lot of people are saying that this is like an adaptation of Flashpoint, which I guess in a certain way it is. But Flashpoint had like a big thing where it was like the war between the Amazons and Atlantis and a bunch of other stuff that was just not part of this movie. So like to me, like it wasn't really a straight Flashpoint adaptation. It was more just like Barry fucks with the timeline and chaos ensues type thing.
Okay,
but there were elements of Flashpoint in this movie. However, one of the things that surprised me the most when I was watching this is that I was never bored. If you're watching like a Snyder movie, like Batman v Superman or Justice League or something like that, there are moments where you're just like, okay, come on, get on with it. Like it's boring.
It's a little self-indulgent.
Oh, extremely self-indulgent. This movie, every scene was paced very, very well. I was never really bored. Even the scenes that like weren't very good, like they moved quickly.
Give me some examples of scenes that weren't very good.
So there's a scene where basically young Barry takes older Barry back to his apartment and they meet like the guy on the couch and his roommates. And one of the jokes in the movie is that because the timeline is different, Eric Stoltz starred in Back to the Future instead of Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
So everyone is like all about Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly.
Okay.
And so like the roommates that we see in this version were like co-workers of Barry's in like the regular timeline, and they're playing like more obnoxious versions of themselves. So like this scene, it wasn't great. Like the humor in it was a little bit obnoxious, but it didn't last long enough to make you be like, okay, come on, get on with it. Because Barry's basically trying to find other members of the Justice League, and he's slowly realizing that there are no metahumans in this reality.
Okay. So
we
got a $2 super chat from Ginger Adventure. Says it's a strange Tumblr version of Flashpoint. ... Yeah, I guess like you said, it's not really a version of Flashpoint. It's just a version of a story where the Flash fumbles through time and
yeah, I mean,
but like you don't have like Thomas Wayne as Batman,
correct,
and you don't have Martha Wayne as the Joker. Like none of that happened.
Correct.
Okay.
And there's no battle between Amazons and Atlanteans or anything like that. Basically, it's kind of like they took certain plot points from Flashpoint and readapted them, but it's basically like what would have happened if Zod and the Kryptonians invaded in Man of Steel and Superman was not around. And instead of having like the Ben Affleck Batman who's like running around Gotham as like the world builders or like trying to terraform the planet, you had a Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman instead. And in this version of reality, Gotham City is like the safest city on earth. Like Batman cleaned it up so well.
He actually did his job.
Yeah. That like basically he retired and he's like all bitter because like there's no more crime to fight.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, he did his job too good.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor. Well, I'm gonna get to these super chats real quick. So $2 from JT. What's up, JT? How you doing, man? Where's my friend Vader? He's on vacation. Yes, he's out of town. I don't even know where he is. He just bounced.
I think his last picture was from Laguna Beach.
Oh, he's in California?
Yeah, he went to California.
Oh, he went to California? What the heck?
Well, he likes, ever since we met him, he likes going there with his wife to get like fresh fruit and vegetables and take in the sea air. Like the weird pressure changes here recently with the weather have really been making his arthritis flare up. So he wanted to go get some nice beach air and relax a bit, I think.
Good for him. I know he's been sharing pictures on our Discord. So if you want to see where Matt Vader's vacationing, go to saltinerdiscord.com. We got another $1.99 from the groomer drunk 3BO. Hail Matt, the Flash was amazing. I don't know if that's sarcasm or not. Thank you, sir, for $1.99. $1.99. I know that's a
$1.99.
That's a Geeks and Gamers thing. So, oh shoot, I was going to ask you something else about the Flash. And I forgot. Oh, did you hear the rumor that they were basing a Keaton-led Batman Beyond film on whether or not the Flash did well? And that makes me so freaking mad because a Keaton-led Batman Beyond movie is on my bucket list of comic book movies that needs to be made. And the fact that they hitched its trailer to the success of the Flash just drives me up a freaking wall. I'm like, you could sell that on its own. You don't have to tie it to anything else. It's just like Michael Keaton's back as old Bruce Wayne, and we have a new Batman in a modern space age, like Blade Runner-esque world. Like, how is that not something that Hollywood's like, yeah, greenlight that. That sounds like it's going to make a ton of money.
I think Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge said it best, where it's like they should have just made like a sequel to the Tim Burton Batman, films. But what's interesting is that this movie could have set up so many interesting avenues. And I think James Gunn made a major mistake in just deciding to like reset everything. What he should have done is he should have given a proper end to the Snyderverse. And this is coming from someone who doesn't like Zack Snyder.
You famously do not like Zack Snyder.
But I feel like they should have reshot Flash and Aquaman to set up a Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline, and then have a Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman with the Snyder casting that kind of takes that Crisis on Infinite Earth in a 3-act structure, where basically it culminates with a complete reset of the DCEU, and then James Gunn can start doing what he wants to do. So like give Henry Cavill a send-off as Superman, give the Snyderverse a closing, like don't make these movies irrelevant just yet.
Yeah.
Because this movie set up the multiverse perfectly, where like they could have done so many different things, and you already have the Crisis on Infinite Earth template right there in the comics. So like, why not adapt that and then move into the new thing that James Gunn wants to do? Like, I found it very odd that he chose not to go that route.
I wonder, because there's so much drama going on with Snyder and his universe, and just the rabid fan base that he has following him around trying to get his movies made and stuff like that. Now he's off doing his own thing with like a Seven Samurai sci-fi movie. Like
Rebel Moon.
Yeah, Rebel Moon. He's off doing his own thing now. I feel like they probably wouldn't have wanted to commit the money and the just logistically, like creating 3 new Snyder-centric universe movies for DC. And then like, we're just going to get rid of it anyway. Like, why not?
Well, I mean, like,
rip the Band-Aid off.
It's not Snyder anymore, though. Like this movie, The Flash, basically. So it was written and directed by Andy Muschietti, who did It Chapter 1 and 2. Very talented filmmaker, I think. And it had like the look and feel of a Snyder movie, but without any of like the really shitty storytelling elements that typically go with a Snyder film. And so like I think that you could take the characters that Snyder developed, like the Jason Momoa Aquaman, the Ben Affleck Batman, all this stuff, and created like a series of movies that were leading to something that people would have wanted to see to get closure on the Snyderverse, and as a gateway into the new direction that they're taking the DCEU, as opposed to just like firing Henry Cavill right off the bat after Black Adam literally reintroduced him.
Yeah.
And pissing off the fans.
Everybody loves Henry Cavill as Superman.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a fan of Snyder.
And even someone like me who hated the Snyderverse for DCEU, like I would have liked to have seen like some closure to it as opposed to it just like ending.
Yeah.
So like I highly question James Gunn's kind of like decision making on this. And you know, like I have faith in him as a storyteller. Like I think he's good at writing movies and telling stories and stuff like that. But his call on this, I think, was wrong. Like they really should have done like a series of Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman movies that gave an end to like this chapter of the DC universe.
Yeah. We got a $5 from Ginger Adventures. Thank you, sir, for the $5. That's called Batgirl. That would be the Batman Beyond extra film. Escape film. Batgirl, are you talking about that CW show or whatever?
No, that's Batwoman.
Oh, the one that they canceled.
Yeah, so the Batgirl movie, which was supposed to have Michael Keaton's Batman in it as her mentor, was apparently so bad that the WB chose to
just destroy it. Just eradicate it from existence
and take the tax loss on it rather than release it because they felt it could do significant damage to the brand of DC.
Wow. That says something.
And I will say that like a lot of people said like, oh, they should have just written down like the Flash and Aquaman and stuff like that. But I feel like the Flash was like a good enough movie where I could see like why they would go forward with releasing it. I just feel like the fact that James Gunn came out ahead of time and basically said like these movies don't matter for his vision going forward.
Yeah.
I feel like that did more damage than anything else.
I've always been of the thought process that WB is most successful when they just make one-off comic book movies like Joker or, you know, Matt Reeves' The Batman or, you know, something along those lines where it's just like, let one director come in and play in the sandbox of these characters. You don't have to have it connected to anything. It doesn't have to be a Marvel-esque connected universe. You can just have a cool story with a character, make it a fairly low budget. It doesn't have to be $300 million or whatever. It could be a lower budget movie and make it good and have a good story and have a good character and just go with it and then be done. Like, oh, that was a great run. Good job. You might get a sequel. We'll touch base with you a little bit later. We're going to move on to this other one. Now, this guy wants to make an Aquaman movie and it's really good. It sounds good. The script is good. Let's give him some money and go do it. Like these one-off little things that aren't connected. They don't have to worry about like, well, if this happens in this movie, then we have to make it tie into this. Like nonsense. Get rid of all that and just do single one-off movies.
Well, I feel like the entire concept of a cinematic universe isn't so much that things are tied together. It's that they're meant to build to something. What made Marvel special was that you had basically a build up to the team up, right? And then once the team up happened, you had a build up to that team facing like a bigger challenge than one single character could overcome. And it's that kind of build up to something special that a cinematic universe is necessary for. And that was kind of like Marvel's grand plan. That's what made it special, is because we never saw that happen before.
Not to that scale, for sure.
Yeah. So like basically like you had all these individual characters who had their individual movies that slowly came together to a team up movie. And then that team up movie led to, you know, like one of the greatest like story arcs in cinema history. And I feel like the Warner Brothers tried to bypass all the buildup and get
go straight to
the payoff.
Yeah.
Which was the totally wrong strategy. So I feel like I personally don't like the standalone aspect that you just mentioned.
Really?
Yeah. Like personally, I prefer I feel like if I'm going to watch something, it's got to be a part of something bigger when it comes to comic books. Because like as I grew up reading comic books were the same way. Yeah, like each hero had their own like comic book line, but they were all in the same universe. And so like stuff would happen in one comic book that would impact a different character in a different comic book and stuff like that. And so I feel like it lends itself to that. I just feel like if it's poorly planned and poorly executed, most people don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Right. So as much as I liked the Battinson, the Batman type thing.
Yeah, the Matt Reeves one.
Yeah. I feel like it would have probably done better and been more interesting if there was actually like repercussions to what happened in that movie in other DC movies, as opposed to it just being like a standalone thing.
I don't know if I need that. I think Marvel has like saturated the market for the like, oh, we have to watch this TV show in order to know what's happening in this other movie. And it gets to the point where you're just like, you're checked out because you can't keep up with it.
Oh, but that's where the planning comes in. right? Where like if you have an actual plan that you're executing, where you know like story beats, like why each movie is being made, and the role that that character plays in the grander story, then it doesn't become a chore, right? Because like you're just going to see movies that are building up to something, and each movie you see is a payoff. Whereas if you don't know what you're doing, which is kind of what Marvel's going through right now, you go and you see these movies and you're just like, why did I bother to see this movie? You know? And so like I feel like if there's a properly executed plan, then it doesn't become a chore to see everything, because like it's just part of like your normal everyday entertainment.
That was like peak Marvel, where like they had like a movie released every 6 months, and it didn't feel like a chore. Like, oh, in 6 months I'll go see a movie, and whatever happened in this movie will have repercussions in that one, and that was like the perfect cycle. I feel like when they got out of hand when they started doing the TV shows and all this other stuff that you had to keep up with, it was getting pretty nuts. But I think the people in the chat seem to be siding with you. They don't want to see different versions of Batman. They want to see one version of Batman. I like the idea of having a bunch of different people play Batman and just have it be a different story each time, different villain, different director. I'm all for it, but
I couldn't stand that.
My
OCD wouldn't allow me to.
No, I'd be like, I don't need to see another origin story. I know how Batman got started. Let's just dive into this. He's fighting Mr. Freeze now. Cool, let's go for it. All right, so let's fight about Extraction 2. You thought it was horrible, and I think I said that it was the best Father's Day movie I could have watched. So what is happening with your brain? What's going on? Why you didn't like it? Why not?
Well, it was funny. So I had to sit here and listen to you and Vader prattle on about how amazing this movie was. Prattle on. Yeah. Just jizz yourself over like how great Extraction 2 fucking was. And I will say this, the technical aspects of Extraction 2 were fantastic. Like the action scenes and stuff like that, very well choreographed, very fun to watch. But action alone, like after you see it the first time, it loses its impact. So you need to have something more to it than just like a beautifully executed action scene, because afterwards it just becomes slaction, right? If there's no emotional attachment to the story, it's hard to invest yourself in what's happening with the action. The first Extraction, I thought, was a very well done film. It had fantastic action as well, but the story felt organic. There were moments where it kind of took its time and, did stuff that made sense. The villain was very well established, or I should say the antagonist was very well established. And you actually kind of like came to like and respect the antagonist in the first one.
Okay. And
I never felt like the movie was stupid. In Extraction 2, there were a lot of moments where the movie was just stupid. Like they were making very contrived story plot points that didn't make a lot of sense.
With the kids?
Just the son? Well, the son was a big part of it.
He was an idiot.
Yeah.
He was absolutely an idiot.
And that's one of those things, it's where when you're writing or crafting a good story, you never want the characters to be dumber than your audience, right? Like you never want them to do stuff where the audience is like, that is stupid. Why are you doing that? You always want to have like a good reason why people do something against their own interests. And I felt like Extraction was just very contrived. Like after you get out of the prison, after you get out of like Russia and stuff like that, past the train sequence, it just takes this hard left turn that it never recovers from, because every plot point is ridiculously dumb.
Every plot point is ridiculously fucking cool, and you're a moron.
So after the train sequence, I guess we're going to go a little bit into spoilers for Extraction 2. So if you haven't seen it, just beware.
How can you even talk about this with Mr. Professor of Contrarianship over there? It's insane.
I'm in a room by myself with him.
I'm pulling my hair out.
Who else am I going to talk to?
I'm in the Jeep pulling my hair out. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna listen. I'm just gonna listen. Let you guys.
No, I'm glad you're here. You could drive. You live not too far away from here. You can come to the studio.
It takes me 30 minutes to get there. I don't want to. I'm tired and gross and sweaty. But.
All right. So after the train sequence, they get to this building, like a little bit of a safe haven where they think they've escaped. But then the son, because he has these connections to his father's side of the family, and he is very confused of whether or not, and this is a teenager, he's probably like what, 16, 17 years old?
Oh no, he's younger than that.
You think he's younger than that?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Maybe he's 14, 15. He's very confused. He's been dragged along with his mom, but he, for whatever reason, looked up to his father because he's been lied to his entire life about how cool his dad is. And then his uncle, which is his dad's brother, is like, hey, you need to come back to the family and be a part of my family. Be over here with the gangsters and the bad guys. And this kid's like, yeah, I think that's what my dad would want me to do. So he makes the call and gives away their position where they're hiding out to the uncle, who then like gathers together his little army and goes after him to go kidnap the kid and kill his mom. I felt like, was that a dumb decision? Yes, but it was made by a dumb kid who was confused and lied to. So it was like, it wasn't that the character was making a decision that didn't make any sense for that character. I felt like, yeah, that kid's going to do something stupid, because it was already shown earlier in the movie that he had like this weird connection with his dad, even though his dad was a piece of crap. He still like looked up to him in some weird way. And this movie is very, very much about fathers and what they mean to their sons. And I appreciated that a lot, especially towards the end of the movie. But I figured, I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. The kid wants to get back with his dad's side of the family, his uncle. He looks up to him. He's a strong gangster. He's rich. He's doing this. He's doing that. He wants to be part of the gang. I got it. I understood why he did that. And that's the only part I could think of that was like plot-wise that was dumb.
Oh no, there was way more than that. I mean, but look at how the kid was first set up, right? So you have a situation where the brother of the main bad guy is in prison. And because he's part of like the mafia that runs the country, apparently, he gets his wife and children put in prison with him, gives them their own cell, so that he can have access to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Gotta know where they're at all times.
And instead of sending them to his brother, where his brother could have like way more control over, like, you know, them
like,
doing that stuff.
You don't want to do that, because then his brother might do stuff to his wife he doesn't want him to do, and like raise his own kid. He wants to raise his own kid in jail with all the other hardcore criminals.
Okay,
make his kid hard.
That's fine, but if he's really looking after his family, then he'd do that. But so they're in prison, right?
Uh-huh.
And he keeps them locked up. Like, it's not like they have like free roam in the prison. They're locked up. The kids are in bed pretty much all day. They have nothing to do. He doesn't go and visit them. Like, when he does come and visit, like, it's like a rare thing. And the wife is like, you need to let the kids out so they can get fresh air and sunshine.
Yeah, yeah.
They're basically prisoners.
Right.
And then the kid watches his father abuse his mother to the point where she's crying, and he goes and comforts his mother because she's crying. And this is the father that he's like looking up to, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the guy.
So so as an audience, how do you justify the emotional attachment this kid supposedly has to his dad? Especially when you know that by giving up your location, you're putting your sister and your mother in mortal jeopardy.
Well, he explained it. The kid said what he was feeling while they were trying to escape. It's like, no, Dad had me here for my own good, to protect me. Like, he was lied to.
Kid was brainwashed.
That kid was brainwashed.
I'm part of the Nagazi. This is what we do.
Yeah, the kid was.
This is how we treat people.
The kid's not thinking clearly.
But wife and children are property.
But it's not just about people in general. Like he has his mother and his sister, right? That as the man of the family, he would feel some sort of responsibility for. Like, we were all grown up. Like, we all have feelings of responsibility for like our mothers and siblings and stuff like that. So I felt like it was very disingenuous that he would simply put their lives in jeopardy in order to, I guess, get out of this situation where he's literally being rescued. But another big thing was that, so first of all, he steals a satellite phone that he somehow knows how to use. He then somehow knows where they're going exactly, like where their location is going to be.
Who are you talking about?
The kid.
The kid?
The kid.
The kid called them after they were already there.
No, he called them on the plane when they were en route to Zurich, I believe. So like they just like left a sat phone just like lying around so like he could steal it and call his uncle and tell him exactly where they were going somehow. And then the uncle gets a crew together, leaves the Russian Eastern Bloc country
that they rule,
gets to Zurich with like a small army, and then starts assaulting a fortified tower.
Man, it's like you've never watched an action movie before.
Well, a good action movie would justify all this stuff, Vader.
It was just like this. This was a fantastic action movie. You're asking too many goddamn questions again.
Look, I'm not saying the action wasn't bad. I'm not saying the action wasn't bad. I'm just saying that the story was incredibly poorly done.
Disagree.
And there's a great moment where Chris Hemsworth is basically fighting the main bad guy on like this glass.
On the glass, thing.
And the main bad guy falls down to like the balcony below.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of shooting him in the head, Chris Hemsworth just walks away. Leaves the bad guy alive.
Because you have to have the fight at the end.
It's called a plot contrivance, Vader.
No, whatever.
There was a reason why he left him there, though, wasn't he? He was in a hurry to get out of there.
No, he literally, there was a gun right by his foot. He picks it up and walks off instead of like picking up the gun and shooting the main bad guy in the face.
Which is what he did at the end of the movie.
Yeah. Why couldn't he have done it then?
I don't know. I don't remember that part. I remember him having the helicopter come to that tower. And it wasn't a small army. It was like 8 people. And
it was a small army. There was a caravan of heavily armed and armored people.
Probably 30, 40 people.
30 people? A couple trucks and a helicopter?
Yeah.
That's all right. He's a gangster. He runs half a country. He's fine.
It's good.
He's going after his
live and die for
his brother's
went
wife.
into a different country.
Let's go, dude.
Let's do it.
Like how close, like how far did he have to travel? How could he have gotten there if they were like halfway there by air already?
He went and jumped in their cargo jets and dumped all their stuff down. So what?
Maybe we should have seen that.
We're thinking about it so hard.
You're giving him more ammo, Vader.
No, I'm not. He's just got to quit thinking about these things so much when he goes and watches them. These are turn your brain off popcorn movies. Who cares?
Who
gives a shit about
the first movie was a turn your brain off movie as well, but like the story was never as bad to take me out of it. Like when I'm watching this movie, I keep questioning like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Blah blah blah. Also, Idris Elba just showing up for like these random cameos where he had like nothing to do with.
He's
like,
the new Nick
story.
Fury.
Yeah,
Nick Fury.
right.
Yeah, but he's not supposed to do anything.
No, it was dumb. This whole thing. It's like
Idris Elba was dumb.
Yeah,
he was not. He was the Nick Fury of this little universe. He's the new handler for Chris Hemsworth.
No, like let me ask you this, right? So he's not the handler. He's this representative of a
government
as yet
entity.
unknown organization. I don't think it has anything to do with the government, but basically, like he shows up and he's like, "Oh, I know your ex-wife. Her sister's in trouble. Why don't you go and save them?"
There you go. That's all you need. That's all you need.
That's it.
Just set up the whole movie. What is so complicated about that?
And I heard your ex-wife's sister is in trouble. Maybe you should go help her. But he had a thing about the two Russian brothers. He was like, it was like a means to an end for him. That's what I took away from it. He wanted to get rid of those 2 Russian brothers, and he was like, "Oh, I can use this guy who's like the best extraction dude ever." I'm not going to tell you that it's a perfect plot. It's fun.
No,
it was fine, and I had a lot of fun watching it. The bad guys were the bad guys. Hemsworth was kicking butt. It was cool, and I'm telling you that ending point where his ex-wife, was telling him about how much his son looked up to him as somebody who was like saving people. That just hit me. And I was like,
I'm not saying the whole movie was bad. I thought that the action scenes were very well done. I liked the emotional stuff that you were talking about with like, finding out about his son. But the plot elements that were at play to have to make everything happen were so egregiously bad that I couldn't overlook them.
Disagree.
All right.
So they were perfectly there, just enough to move the story along.
I'm glad you're here to back me up, V. I'm glad you're here to back me up. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, man, you can't think too hard about this kind of stuff. I thought it was the perfect movie for what I wanted to watch at the time. It really was. It was it was just a fun action movie with some really cool set pieces and not a lot of story, and they moved it along. Now we can get a number 3 where he goes and fights a predator or something, and we won't care what he's fighting. Maybe
wouldn't that be something?
Yeah,
you think Hemsworth
pretty cool? He's the new action hero. He's the next action star. He
Because you know what? You know who owns
the
Predator?
Extraction is his thing now.
You know who owns Predator? The IP, Disney. You know who Hemsworth works with?
That's gonna go straight to hell. Well, not anymore because he said some weird little thing about how Love and Thunder was maybe a little bit too.
It was bad.
A little bit too much. You know, super controversial. It was super controversial.
Oh, was that a bad take for him to say that?
He said it might have been a little bit much, but you know, people freak out.
He said it was a tad too silly.
They went too silly.
Oh, it was. God. It absolutely was too silly.
Nuclear bombs go off. How dare he say such a thing? How dare he?
Taika Waititi's in the corner crying.
Honestly, that Matt has these takes on both these movies surprises me not a bit, not even a little bit. He's Captain Contrarian, always has been, always will be, and that's just something that I
find it interesting that you guys can completely ravage John Wick 4 and yet overlook the exact same issues.
Did not have the same issues
are present. Oh, God mode.
This
Chris Hemsworth gets stabbed twice in the sides during the prison riot, and he just walks around like nothing happened to him.
This isn't a parody of itself. It's not. It's just like the last movie.
I would completely disagree.
You can't
the last movie was a lot more realistic.
To Wick 1, it was realistic.
Well, I can take Extraction 1 and compare it to Extraction 2.
You know, it's just, I disagree, man. It wasn't even close to being as bad as from Wick 1 to Wick 4. I'm not saying
all the stuff that we did not like about Wick 4 was present in Extraction.
I saw no pixelated scenes that they forgot to finish in post in the middle of this
and
movie.
The bad guys were not like stumbling over their own shoelaces trying to get back up.
He didn't fall down a set of stairs 16
like a cartoon
times
character.
like a cartoon character.
No, he just got thrown by like a train crash and slammed into like a brick wall and stabbed twice.
He got shot in the hand
multiple times.
Shot in the hand while he was holding himself up and another person. It's totally fine.
Yeah,
it's totally good.
No, like it was just like when you guys said God mode, like I didn't realize how ridiculous it was.
No, I said he went God mode. Absolutely.
But it was just as bad in Wick 4. Like him getting thrown out of like 4-story buildings and stuff like that. No, it was just as bad in this one, Matt.
Oh my God, look at that. Got the head twitch. Got the head twitch.
He can twitch his head all he wants. Don't give a shit.
We promised to fight.
Twitch away.
Fight. Okay.
I mean, I don't begrudge people who like the movie. Like it's fine if you like the movie, but like the story was just really, really bad. It was a terrible story. The first one was so much better.
I'd have to watch the first one again. It probably was. Usually movies have sequelitis. Okay. Before we start delivering blows to each other over the internet, Matt Vader.
I would never do that. I love that guy. He's my homie.
There's the last topic for today that I wanted to talk about real quick with you guys, and I'm glad that you're here today, V, because I want to get your take on this. I guess we're calling it a tragedy. I suppose we're calling it a tragedy of the Titan Submersible imploding, and
here's what you don't.
The five people
don't spend millions of dollars to go down in a piece of plastic to the bottom of the ocean. How's that?
Thank you. I was like, everybody. I've seen a lot of people's takes on this online. I've kind of held my tongue. I didn't really say anything about it. But everybody's like, oh my God, I feel so bad. That must be so horrible, yada, yada. And I'm like, they got in the thing to begin with, which seems really ill-advised. Like the walk around, the videos out there right now of like, this is what the submersible looks like. I'm looking at that going,
you know what it was made out of? It was made out of carbon
fiber.
It was made out of the same crap my Ridge wallet's made out of.
It's made out of carbon fiber weave. Yeah. And like a titanium lid. And like, I know I'm not like a sub expert or anything like that, but I watched this video on YouTube of this old Navy submarine guy. He has his own YouTube channel. And it's called like,
I don't know if that's gonna work.
And that's literally, he's watching this going, who thought this was gonna work? He literally said, he's like, the reason why the military doesn't use carbon fiber when doing anything underwater is because it doesn't hold up.
Yeah,
it shatters like glass. They said.
No,
I just was like, looking at the situation going, why would you spend close to 250,000 I think per ticket, so $500,000?
I mean, here's how I look at it. There's nothing at the bottom of the ocean for humans, especially at that depth, other than death. That's all it's down there is death. Death that sunk on its way to the bottom Everybody was dead before they got there, and death for you when you stay down there too long, or before you ever even get there. That piece of crap sub didn't even make it to the bottom to begin with. It imploded on the way down.
It's been down there before. This wasn't their first trip, was it?
So
This was their 4th expedition.
4th. Okay. So they've done it 4 times and it blew up. Or imploded, sorry.
Yeah.
It just, to me, I look at that and I'm like, why would anybody?
It's a good track record. 1 and 4, pretty good.
Not bad.
It's too bad our jets out here flying in and out of the airport. 1 and 4. That's good.
1
man.
and 4. Yeah,
Let's
you
go.
imagine if the airlines had a 1 and 4 record. That's by the 4th place.
Yeah.
It's on
75%. We're good. We're good.
That's a good ratio.
You only have a 25% chance of death. That's fine.
God.
No big deal.
But like, it was funny because I was talking to my wife about this, and do you guys? So the news has come out now that the Navy had heard a distinctive pop on the day that this thing lost connection, and they were like, "Oh, we pretty much knew what it was," but they didn't tell anybody for like a week.
Because that would distract away from that would take the news cycle off of this and put it squarely on Hunter Biden.
Yeah, 100%.
So
I'm like,
we'd rather talk about millionaires dying on the bottom of the ocean instead of all the actual real news that matters.
Well, did they die? Maybe they faked their death.
Nah, they're dead.
Who knows? They just disappeared one day. I mean, that's a way to go if you're a billionaire and you're like, you know what? I kind of want to just bounce. You tuck some money away somewhere.
Yeah.
You go on a submersible.
Heard there's a really nice little island for sale a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And then you just gone.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever going to look for you again. I thought that was a fascinating theory. I was like, oh, that's not a bad theory. It's possible. But yeah, they absolutely use this. They knew that it was. They knew that it imploded.
Mainstream news is garbage.
100%.
Quit watching it.
No, I don't. But I just thought it was.
I'm talking to the chat. It's just it's all mind manipulation at this point.
Yeah.
Get your news other places.
But I don't know, man. $250,000. Do you think they really like who would spend that much money doing that? Even James Cameron was like, that's ridiculous.
I watch every day these assholes come into our town and they spend hundreds and millions of dollars playing
gambling. Yeah, that's fair.
And it's revolting.
I want to say something about the cost
of
this thing. So whether you agree with his methods or not, the Ocean Gate CEO, the guy behind this sub, what he wanted to do was he wanted to make undersea exploration accessible to people so that eventually one day it would cost as much to take a flight as it would to go to the bottom of the ocean. Yeah. And the way he went about doing this, as misguided as it was, is he looked for affordable ways in which to construct these submersibles so that he could pass savings on to customers. And there were a lot of engineers who kind of came out after this tragedy happened and basically said, like, you know, he should have been charging $1 million, $1.5 million a ticket, something like that, that he could then reinvest into better technology, better submersibles.
Okay.
And so basically what he was looking to do was he was looking to create the Southwest Airlines of space or underwater. Spirit Airlines of underwater, tourism.
Hey man, look, here's, if I'm going to spend that much money to go do something fun, if I'm that kind of a rich asshole, I'm going to go get in Branson's giant penis rocket and go into space. For 12 seconds. That's I would much rather. It's the same shit.
There are people who enjoy like space exploration, but if you really think about it, there's so much of this planet, like 80% of the planet's ocean, and there's so much of that has not been explored, at least not underneath. Like we got satellite photos of the surface, but like you mentioned James Cameron earlier, and one of the most interesting things about this is that, like, the minute James Cameron heard about this, he's like, it imploded. He just knew it, and he kept quiet out of respect for the families because he didn't want to go out there talking about his theory until there was actual proof that it happened. But he knew it happened. And what's really interesting is, like, he did a documentary. I don't know if many people know this, but James Cameron is one of 3 people who have been to the bottom of the ocean, like the very bottom.
Yeah. He did all that stuff in preparation for the movies.
Well, no. Basically, so like he'd always been fascinated with the ocean, which is why like Avatar 2, The Way of Water, Titanic, The Abyss, stuff like that. But after Titanic gave him more money than God, he mounted his own expedition to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, which is 37,000 feet below sea level, right? And if you think about it, at that level, you've got 16,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. So if you had a 1x1 board on your chest, that would mean that you would be, you would have basically 32,000 pounds of pressure on top of you on that 1 square foot of your chest. And he went to the bottom down there in a submersible that he designed specifically to reach those types of depths. And there's a documentary out there. It's actually free on YouTube. You can go check it out, called like Deep Sea Challenger or something like that. But I watched that this morning, actually, and it was absolutely fascinating to watch James Cameron mount this expedition to literally the most dangerous and deepest place on the planet. Yeah. And he's one of 3 people in history to actually go down there and do it. And he was the first to do it solo.
I'm all for exploration. Like if they want to put some funds together, if they want to get a bunch of Elon Musk types or Jeff Bezos types to put some money together and do undersea exploration and even build facilities down there that they can actually have like a little habitat. Like I'm all for it. But the fact that this guy was trying to create tourism out of the Titanic on the cheap, and then people were signing up for it, it just seemed really irresponsible. It was like,
it was
people,
incredibly irresponsible.
And the people to walk into that thing and look at it and say, what are you controlling this with? And then the other thing too is like these, you're looking at a computer. You're looking at a computer screen of what a camera on the outside of the sub is looking at. At that point in time, just watch a freaking YouTube video. Like you're not getting. What's the experience? You're not getting.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said that like you can say that you went down to those depths. But what was interesting about the James Cameron documentary was like how much testing that they did with his submersible. Like you actually got to see them. Like tested at different depths, and you saw like when failures happen, they went back up. It's like, okay, this happened, we need to fix this and stuff like that. And they also pointed out that like every time a submersible goes down, the deeper it goes down, the weaker it gets. So like the submersible that James Cameron took down to the Marianas Trench, it shrunk by 2 inches by the time it came back up. Like it contracted 2 inches because of the pressure. And basically, like when you do that, you can't use that same submersible to go and do that same thing again. Like you have to build like entirely new one because the pressure affects it. And the big mistake that this CEO made for Ocean Gate is that he wasn't replacing the vessels after each dive. He was reusing the same vessel with these off-the-shelf parts that it was constructed from. Like James Cameron, like when he went down to the Titanic, they had very specific submersibles that they used to get down there. And then they had unmanned, submersibles that went in and like explored. In fact, on 9/11, James Cameron was down there on the deck of the Titanic with their submersible with Bill Paxton having lunch.
Yeah. When they come back up, they get the news. Yeah, I saw that video. Yeah.
So like I'm actually surprised because we all hear about James Cameron and his deep diving fetish, like whatever.
Yeah.
But I had no idea like how big of a figure he is in undersea exploration.
Yeah, he's pretty big.
Yeah, like he's not only is he a legendary filmmaker, he's a legendary explorer, and nobody really gives him a lot of credit for that.
He's the Jacques Cousteau of
he puts Jacques Cousteau to shame, man. But what's really interesting is so he gets to these depths and he starts collecting soil samples and he starts documenting different species of amphibious life and stuff like that. It was really interesting.
The ocean is a fascinating place, and we know frighteningly little about it. I'm all for exploration. I just don't think that this made any sense. And do you guys remember when they were in the middle of the search and it was midweek and they have 24 hours of oxygen left? Do you remember the news stories that we're hearing a consistent banging,
knocking.
Every 30 minutes there's a knocking? What do you think that was?
Could have been anything, dude. Underwater noises. It could.
Yeah, but I mean, you heard the tape. It was literally somebody was doom doom.
I think it was the sound of we need our ratings to go up. That's what I think it was.
Well, you know what's crazy is like, so when I was watching this James Cameron documentary, he talks about implosion, like what happens when a catastrophic implosion occurs. And he's basically like, like if I die down there, like it's going to happen in a split second, because when the sub implodes and you got all that pressure from like the water coming in at once,
milliseconds.
Milliseconds. And it basically turns you into like a red mist.
Yep.
There's literally nothing left of you. It's like when you slam your foot down on an ant and like, it squishes them out to like a filament of pancake. It's basically like that, where you've got so much pressure coming in from every single side that you die before you even realize what's happening.
They felt no pain.
You not only die, you get obliterated.
Yeah, there's nothing left of you. Yeah. And I mean, if there's any kind of solace to take out of that, it's like there's no pain, because it literally happens faster than your brain can process what's going on.
Yeah, like out of all the tragic possible outcomes, like this one was the best one, honestly.
Yeah. It would have been far worse if they were stuck down there for 3-4 days in a row, like just slowly running out of oxygen.
I wonder if there were news sites out there with like oxygen meters counting down.
Probably
like
the COVID death meter. Remember that? The rolling COVID death meter on CNN.
That sounds like something they would do.
Absolutely.
I do think Vader has something when he talks about why it lasted as long as it did, because the Navy basically refused to share this information that they had with the like search and rescue efforts. And a lot of people are asking like, well, why? Like, why would the Navy sit on this stuff? Like, if they knew what happened, like you could tell that to the search and rescue, and then they could try to verify it. And it just so happened that this occurred the day that all these Biden corruption things started dropping. And they kept it alive as a distraction.
100%.
Basically.
Yep. And that's why it was a fascinating story, don't get me wrong, but there's no way it should have stayed in the news cycle for as long as it did. Like, it should have been maybe a 24-hour thing. Oh my gosh, there's a missing sub. And then we don't hear anything about it until like a week later when they find out what actually happened. But yeah, this was every day. It was all over the place. I mean, it's on our YouTube channel now because we're talking about it. But it was like literally the only thing I would ever see on social media, whether it was Instagram or on YouTube Shorts or whatever, it was all submarine talk. Submarine talk.
I was waiting for it to be a marketing tie-in for the Meg 2. That would have been pretty cool.
Well, you know what was sad though? I read this the other day. They said ever since this happened, Celine Dion's theme song from Titanic has gone to the #1 charts on Spotify. People are listening to this.
People are gross, dude.
I was no, that's
wrong song.
Tina Turner. Yeah, wrong song. What? Tina Turner, right? Is that who that is? We'll Always Love You. It was
that was Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston, sorry. Yeah. No, what's the Celine Dion song? There you go. That one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm king of the world. Yeah. Gosh. I wonder how many people
paint me like one of your French girls.
How many people do you think rented Titanic this week over this whole thing?
Well, I watched that James Cameron documentary because of this.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
But that documentary, like if you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend it because it was really interesting.
I subscribed to a new YouTube channel that is exclusively about submarines because of this. I was like, oh yeah.
Dude,
seems like an interesting thing.
I've always been fascinated by submarines. Always.
They're interesting technology.
Like submarine movies are some of my guilty pleasures.
Oh, for sure.
You got Crimson Tide, you got
Hunt for October.
Hunt for October.
You know,
like I love reading like books about submarines. I find them fascinating.
The submarine would not have imploded if Elon Musk had made it. If it was an Elon Musk boat, it would have been just fine.
I watched Titanic on Sunday.
Of course you did.
You're gross. No.
Fucking shill.
If Elon, I don't know, Elon's too focused on Mars.
This was a Ocean X exploration. It would have been different.
Well, you know
SpaceX.
You know what I thought was interesting is like you have all these like deep sea explorers out there who kind of look their nose down on space explorers because they're like, space is easy, man.
Yeah.
Like the ocean's like where the hard stuff's at because you got all this pressure. Like the further up in the atmosphere you go, the less friction there is because there's nothing up there to cause pressure. But the further down you go, like the harder it becomes.
Yeah.
So like it's easier to get into space than it is to go to the bottom of the ocean.
Yep. It's the ocean's freaking crazy. I love those ocean movies. Even that one with what's her face, the the Twilight chick. What was that called? That movie that she did?
It was Underwater.
Underwater. Is that the name of the movie?
I think so.
God, what a boring title. Yeah,
Have you ever-
Underwater. It was actually a really good movie.
It was a good movie.
I had a lot of fun with it. It was cool. It had like monsters and everything. I think if we're gonna find, since the other thing that everybody in the news is obsessed about right now is aliens and stuff like that, where we're gonna find alien life, it's gonna be at the bottom of the ocean.
You need to watch this little thing called The Abyss.
I love that movie.
It's a great
That movie's
movie.
freaking cool.
Another
Dude.
James Cameron movie.
Yeah.
It's got everything. It's got
All
underwater
right, guys.
stuff,
Aliens.
aliens, giant spaceships.
I do feel bad for the families, although they're all super wealthy and they're all gonna just soothe whatever this company is.
Wasn't
into
there like a
oblivion.
stepson who was like going? Like,
He went to Blink One. Yeah, he went to a
concerts?
Blink 182 concert, and I quote, "Because my dad would have wanted me to." Dude, shut up. It's ridiculous. I was like, oh god.
There was one of these
People are-
billionaires here in Vegas that was actually supposed to be on that boat, and they gave their tickets up. Said, I don't think I want to go on that thing just yet. We're gonna let it go down a couple more times.
Wasn't there like a big controversy about how like this guy wouldn't give refunds either, like if people backed out?
Oh, I didn't know about that. That'd be fascinating if it was true though. But if I was doing a walk around on this guy's sub and he was showing me like, this is what we're gonna go down in, and he pulls out a Logitech Bluetooth controller and says, "There, look at this," I'd be like,
you know what though, like
hard pass.
I've been hearing a lot of shade being thrown at like the video game controller that was used to.
Are you gonna defend the video game controller?
Well,
Come on,
what I
man.
thought was interesting was like, so I was watching the James Cameron documentary, and he was controlling his sub with like a little remote control thing, and it wasn't that different from like the video game remote. So I could see like why the Ocean Gate CEO would say like, hey, instead of like getting this like big, bulky, expensive like controller, why don't we see if we can use over-the-counter prosumer controllers to pilot the sub? Because it was basically like, whether it's a video game controller or like one of these boxy like controllers, like it does the same thing. So like I feel like that's getting a little bit too much attention because like it looks ridiculous and it's like, oh, it was like playing a video game, but like it's actually not that out of the realm of like believability that like, okay, instead of manufacturing like this thing that looks like it controls an RC car, like whatever, we just get like a video game controller
because it's reliability. I mean, what do you? The Bluetooth goes disconnect. My Bluetooth disconnects off my Xbox controller all the time. I'll be playing a game, it'll just be like reconnect your, and then it'll pop back up.
I'm not buying any more of these.
Too many
Bluetooth things
freaking
again.
liabilities going on when you're that far down.
Well, but I mean, like the whole concept of the sub was like one liability after another.
The whole thing, is awful.
But the whole kind of like concept behind it that the Ocean Gate CEO was trying to do was like, okay, how can we create a submersible that is affordable and works just as good as like the other stuff? The big thing, the big problem here was like there was no certification process. And one of the interesting aspects of this is that once you get out into international waters, there's no governing body.
Yeah, you can do whatever
so
you want.
technically you don't need certifications, you don't need any of this stuff. But like as a potential passenger thing, like the stuff the airlines have to go through in order to like just exist is ridiculous in terms of like how much they test, like how long a plane can fly before it has to be retired, like all this other stuff. It's all very tightly regulated because you don't want planes falling out of the sky. You don't want people dying.
I don't really have a hard time. I don't have a problem with that really so much.
There is no problem with that. But when it comes to international waters, there's no governing body that's going to like, be there to like poo-poo you. But like as someone who's going on one of these vessels, I'd be like, can I see your certification?
That's why all of these alien vessels, they're all seen 20 miles off the shore because they're in international waters and they don't have to answer to anybody, so it's just how it is.
But,
the Tic Tac and things, they're out there off in international space.
There's also this psychological aspect of like, if you price something high enough, people think that it's worth that value.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah, there's definitely that, especially with rich people. Like that's a thing. That's a legitimate like mind messing.
I mean, it's like how many rich people climb Mount Everest just to say they climbed it, and then like they're basically going past all the bodies of the people who died. I wish
there was like
trying to get up there.
There should be some kind of thing where like we could take their money away from them. If we give them a test.
It's called communism.
I know, but we just give them a simple test. It's like, are you willing to spend $250,000, $50,000 to go down to the bottom of the ocean in a plastic container. And if they say yes, then like you're too dumb to have your money, and you just take it. And then
I feel like this was part of the Squid Games.
Rich dumb people make the world go round, man. You gotta have rich
ridiculous.
dumb people.
So,
I watched a video. Yeah. Speaking of the Mount Everest thing, this will be the last thing before we get out of here, guys. But I just want to do an hour today. I'm feeling pretty under the weather. I'm gonna bounce here in a second, but I watched a video today talking about Mount Everest and how easy it has become for people to book a trip to Mount Everest now. Yeah. Like you get up to the top, there's literally like a line, like you're sitting at freaking Costco waiting to check out to go to the top of Mount Everest. It's absurd.
I bet there's a Starbucks up there.
Eventually there's gonna be like we're ruining Mount Everest. Like,
Starbucks at the base camp. It's like, no.
There was this video on Instagram of this lady who was just freaking out, like crying, screaming halfway up the freaking face of Mount Everest as these frozen dead bodies are rolling past her going back the other direction, because I guess there was some kind of an avalanche a little bit ahead of them, and it knocked loose a bunch of these dead bodies that have been up there forever. And there's a video and she's just freaking out while they're just sliding by her. And I'm like, we've got to stop. Somebody's got to be like, listen, this Everest thing has had enough. Let's take a break for a while.
But it goes back to that old joke about like, why do you climb Mount Everest? Because it's there.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's always going to be people who look at the challenge or look at something that is off the path and want to do it.
Look, if they want to like go explore something cool, go do some expeditions into the deep darks of the Antarctica, where there's pyramids and underground civilizations and dinosaurs and stuff.
They're never going to do it.
Could be there. Could be there. Just saying. You never know what's under that ice down there. It's I really want the Antarctica to be explored for real. It's like a whole other planet down there. Volcanoes. It's probably a jungle under the ice somewhere. You know, Hitler might be there.
Have you been keeping up with the Boneyard, Alaska, Vader?
No.
Oh, dude, you'd find that fascinating.
Is that where the woolly mammoths and stuff?
Yeah. They keep finding new stuff up there. They're finding like all kinds of stuff.
Actually, I think Vader would be more interested in Cocaine Island.
There's a documentary on Netflix called Cocaine Island.
Really?
And I want to watch it. It looks amazing.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, guys, we're gonna polish this up. Sorry for the short stream today, but like I said, I'm fighting off a cold right now. And I'm a little under the weather.
Can I say one thing before you?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you to everybody. Well, first off, I'm not mad at Matt for liking these movies. That is what he does. It's what he's here for. If he likes them, he likes them. It's cool. It's fine. We're gonna disagree, and that's what makes the Salty Nerd podcast fun. Is we usually disagree on things.
Disagree.
And if we all agreed on everything, we'd have 12 subs. And we don't agree on everything. And because of that reason, and because you guys are all awesome, we crossed 13,000 subs earlier this morning on our YouTube channel.
13K.
And that's pretty awesome. And we appreciate every one of you. So I just wanted to bring that up and say thanks. So
thank you. Everybody who subbed, thank you guys so much for getting us to this milestone. It's a really big deal for us. We really appreciate it. And big friendly shout out to Nerdrotic Gary for coming on our show. He got us over that hump. We were sitting at like 12.8, I think. 12.7, 12, something like that. And then Gary came on and joined us for the Saturday live stream, which I missed because I was sick. And his, the fellowship, his fans and Gary himself, they came over there and bumped us up all the way to 13K. So thank you all so much. It's been fantastic. It's a great ride. Let's look for 15K. We're going to go for 15K next. What are we going to do our next celebration stream? 15? 20? I'm going to say 15.
15, okay.
Is that all right with you?
Whatever, I don't care.
Can we go by fives?
Fives?
Cool.
10,
we go 15, 25, 50.
All right.
Whatever you want, man.
Whatever you want. Okay. This is just like, this is what we're doing. No, it's all
I
good.
say 17,470. That's
perfect.
We should do it.
That's a great one. Can we do 60? No, never mind.
69.
69,000. That's a big celebration. If we don't have a celebration stream of 69,000, what are we even doing?
I know. It's terrible. Maybe by 2027 we'll get there.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Stay salty. We'll see you on Saturday.